The Nigerian Civil War, remembered by many as the Biafran War, was fought between 1967 and 1970. It was a battle between Nigeria against Biafra. Over 1 million lives were lost. But behind the date lies a war that was more than politics, more than territory. It was a war that rewrote families, villages, and even the identity of a nation. Nigeria, barely 7 years after independence in 1960, was already bleeding from within. A fragile federation of more than 250 ethnic groups was held together by suspicion. In January 1966, a coup led by Major Jukuma Kaduna Uziegu toppled the civilian government. Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa was killed. Premier Hamadu Bello of the north and Premier Samuel Akintola of the west were assassinated. Though some Igbo officers participated in the coup, the north saw it as an Igbo plot to dominate Nigeria. 6 months later, a counter-coup came led by northern officers. General Johnson Aguiyi Ironsi, the first military head of state who was an Igbo, was murdered in Ibadan. From that moment, the East and the North looked at each other not as brothers but as enemies. Then came the massacres from May to October 1966 in Kaduna, Kano, Zaria, and Jos. Tens of thousands of Eastern Nigerians, mostly Igbos, were slaughtered in pogroms. Trains carrying refugees back to the East became trains of corpses. Survivors whispered stories of women hanged in marketplaces, children thrown into fire. The eastern region became a land of grief and anger. On May 30th, 1967, Lieutenant Colonel Dumego Ojukwu, governor of the eastern region, declared the Republic of Biafra. For him, it was not rebellion but survival. For General Yakubu Gowon, Nigeria's young head of state, it was secession and a threat to the unity of Africa's largest nation. Lagos became the stage of diplomacy. Meetings in Aburi, Ghana, promised peace but delivered none. By July 1967, Nigeria launched police action to bring back Biafra. What was meant to last weeks dragged into 3 years of blood. The war opened on multiple fronts. In the Midwest, Biafran troops under Colonel Victor Banjo and Major Abat Okonkwo marched as far as Ore in Ondo State. Their dream was to take Lagos, but instead they were pushed back. In the north, Colonel Murtala Mohammed commanded federal troops who stormed Nsukka and Enugu. Enugu, the Biafran capital, fell in October 1967. In the south, Admiral Way and Commodore Joseph Edet Akinwale Way blockaded the ports of Port Harcourt, Calabar, and Bonny, cutting Biafra off from the sea. Yet, Biafra fought back with ingenuity. When denied weapons, the Biafrans made their own weapons. Scientists in Umuahia created the famous Ogbonigwe, the dreaded Biafran bomb. Children and women helped melt scrap metal to forge bullets. In the air, Swedish pilot Gustav von Rosen flew tiny planes nicknamed the Biafran babies, striking federal airfields. But while the battles raged, the deadliest killer was silent. And that was hunger. With the federal blockade choking Biafra, food could not enter the east. Kwachoko, a disease of hunger, became the face of the war. The world saw images of children with stick-like arms and swollen bellies. It was Father Kevin Doheny and relief pilots of the Joint Church Aid who risked their lives to fly food into Biafra at night, landing on makeshift runways like Huli. Between 1968 and 1970, an estimated 2 million civilians, mostly children, died of starvation. Hunger became a weapon of war, and silence became the grave of a people. By 1969, Biafra was collapsing. Towns like Aba, Owerri, and Umuahia fell one after another. Even as hope died, Ojukwu's broadcast insisted Biafra lives. But in January 1970, realizing the end had come, Ojukwu fled into exile in Cote d'Ivoire. His deputy, Philippe Effiong, surrendered to General Gowon on January 15, 1970. The war ended with Gowon's words, "No victor, no vanquished," but beneath the slogan lay millions of graves. History remembers Gowon, Ojukwu, and Murtala. But what of the mothers in Asaba who were massacred in 1967? What of their men who lined up and shot by federal troops? What of the children who carried messages through forest, or the farmers who planted cassava under gunfire? What of villages like Osu, Abam, Afikpo, and Oguta that became the battlegrounds yet never made it into history books? The war was not only a clash of armies, it was a shattering of trust, of brotherhood, of the dream of one Nigeria. 50 years later, the war still whispers in Nigeria's politics, in Igbo marginalization debates, in secessionist movements, in the silence of survivors who never told their stories. The Nigerian Civil War was not just about Biafra or Nigeria. It was about what happens when dialogue fails, when ethnicity outweighs humanity, when pride overshadows peace. And perhaps the deepest lesson is this: wars end, but their whispers never do. The land still remembers, the silence of the dead still calls, and until Nigeria learns to listen, the civil war will never truly be over. Narration by Osayuki Omosi. Thank you for staying with me on this journey. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Together, let's keep making history.